Welcome back. By the way, I wanted to apologize to John from Minneapolis yesterday. He called in talking about Jerry Brown. I interrupted him. He said, "That's incredibly rude." I cut him off. He was right. It was incredibly rude. So, John, my apologies. I could make excuses. I could talk about how I was feeling like there was, like jet lagged. I hadn't had much sleep last night before last. But, there's no excuse for bad behavior. My apologies. Dave in Federal Way, Washington. Hey, Dave, what's up?
Hey, not too much, Tom. No, hey, you are totally right. This is a deep and really persistent cultural problem that maybe has come to a head. And I hope you're right that we're on the verge of a cultural shift. But I saw it a lot when I was in the military, and it was like really astounding. I was like, my gosh, this is so rampant. And I retired in 2010. And from what I've read, I keep up with the, military news, of course. And from what I've read, it's kind of abated a little bit, but it's still going on. Like, I was just reading about this Fat Leonard scandal with all these Navy admirals and stuff. This, it's really very pernicious. But a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, I think, was necessary to keep South Africa together as a single country.
To prevent a civil war.
South Africa's always had a problem with, countries peeling off from it.
Well, and we did a semi-small version of that ourselves right after the Civil War. I mean, Congress expelled a whole bunch of members of Congress simply because they were Confederate sympathizers. That, and that's really starting at the top. It wasn't quite a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, but there was a purge. Anyhow, back to you, Dave.
Yeah. Oh, no. And I was thinking, I definitely, I sort of agree with you and on that. And I think it's definitely time for an ERA, though, an Equal Rights Amendment, because what I saw in the military, anyways, is the only way to really stop this sort of thing is you got to de-incentivize it. You've got to take away, you need for people to know, predatory people to know that there will be punishment for treating people, in an inhumane way, or basically inhumane way. That's what we're talking about here. Yeah. And because without that, they will continue.
Well, the other thing about the Equal Rights Amendment is that at law, it gives the government the ability to level the playing field, to equalize the power relationships, and I think at its core, and there's an impulse, I think, among men to say, oh, this is just men being horny, or this is just testosterone, or something like that. But much like the conversation we've had over the last 30 or 40 years about rape, I think this is more about power than it is about sex. Although, clearly, some of these men are essentially deranged. I mean, just in a way that probably goes way beyond power, right? They're not using their power in other, to the best of my knowledge, I haven't seen any complaints that Charlie Rose was a tyrant in the office, or that he was a terrible boss, or that he humiliated people, or did the kind of behavior that, frankly, Harvey Weinstein engaged in. Apparently he was a decent guy and a decent boss, unless you were attractive, young, female, and in his apartment. And that's where, if we had an Equal Rights Amendment, then the laws, a lot of laws would actually shift or change just as a consequence of that. And there is functionally an Equal Rights Amendment in the Uniform Code of Military Justice, isn't there, Dave?
Yeah, functionally, and like I said, this is deeply cultural. Just one example is, like, there was this guy, General Haight. No one's talking about him. General Haight he didn't, as far as I know, he didn't force himself on any women, but he had a very, very elaborate sex life, apparently. And it got to the point to where he was, he was in peril from the Russians. From not just the Russians, but adversaries could use this to blackmail him. Well, at the end of his scandal and everything, about the only friend he had left was General McMaster.
Oh, that's
and it's really it's cultural. I think guys do stuff that they wouldn't normally do just to belong, in a peer group.
Yeah.
I mean, it's peer pressure. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but I ultimately believe
doubt
it's about
Harvey
power
Weinstein.
more than sex.
Yeah, from what I've read of the accounts of people, of Harvey Weinstein and Charlie Rose, this does not look to me like they're responding to peer pressure. These are very private things that they've done. So, but I get what you're saying. I think that the guys, the construction site guys who are wolf whistling, that might be some of that might be peer pressure. But all excellent points, Dave. Thanks for the call. Stephanie in Alexandria. Hey, Stephanie, what's up?
Hi, Tom.
Hey, Stephanie. Stephanie, if I can, Stephanie, could I just pause you? Forgive my interrupting you. I just noticed that I only have 20 seconds before we're going to hit a break, and I don't want to force you into a 20-second slot here. So let me put you on hold, and I'll pick up your call on the other side of the break. There's a number of other things here. Well, actually, we'll get to those as we continue. Speaking of General McMaster, by the way, our last caller mentioned McMaster was the last friend of this one particular general. At a lobbying hotspot with a powerful tech CEO, General McMaster said that Donald Trump has the intelligence of a kindergartner, is an idiot, and a dope. BuzzFeed is publishing this. Donald Trump is not going to be happy with